Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Please signify with smoke signals or whatever. Maybe chat would be better. So, I was just sitting around waiting to start. I don't see any reason not to go ahead and start now. Loud and clear. Good. So, how's everybody doing this evening? I almost said this morning. It's this morning somewhere. But anyway. So, who do we have so far? Garth Beagle, yes, HyperCard is very dangerous. Being a programmer is dangerous. So, in Retro Techie or Die, and Mac Effects, hey there. Adam, and that's who we got so far. So, I was fiddling around with some HyperCard stuff for the game and ran into some limitations of what I was doing. So I worked out a way to do it that isn't terribly painful. More about that once in a couple of minutes. Let people catch up and jump on. So type in the chat how your Thanksgiving was if you celebrated Thanksgiving. I know not everybody does. So mine was pretty uneventful. Went and saw my mother and sisters and their spouses. And there was not 6 dogs there like sometimes there is. And all the nieces and nephews except for my daughter was there, eldest daughter was there, and one of her cousins. Other than that, that was it. It was nice and relaxing. Yeah, Retro Techie or Die. Relaxing is the key word there. So I'm still, sitting in rooms full of boxes and things like that from the move, but it's starting to shape up. The basement is a disaster. You ate a whole Adam, you ate a whole pumpkin pie and then went to the hospital. I hope it wasn't because of the pumpkin pie. So, and I hope the hospital was resolved. Your visit was resolved in your favor, I guess. Is that how we talk about those things now? So, you may not know, I'm in the basement. Of the house that we're renting, and it's the back of the basement is exposed to the outside, so there's a sliding glass door that's just a few feet over here. You're not dead yet. Good. We don't want a dead Adam. And it's like 30, or I'm sorry, it's like 63 degrees in this room, so it's not very warm. But I don't really want to open the vent to heat up the basement because there's no point. Anyway, so I just dress for the cold. It's 9:30, so why don't we go ahead and get started? So, what I have been working on is an adventure game. Let me switch views so you guys can see it. Yeah. Here we go. So, that adventure game has an editor, and in that editor you need to be able to have scrollable regions. So there is a control in HyperCard, and that control you can do a scrollable list. The scrollable list can have items in it, and you can set the properties so that all you can do is select an item for the list. And you can set it to scrollable like this, so you could have this big list. Is this the HyperCard thing that all the kids are talking about? Yes. Yes, it is. So, sorry, warming my hands up. So, the idea behind the list is it's a pretty simple, control, and there's a lot you can do with it. There's a bunch of properties, so in a field, you can indicate it's scrolling. You can make it transparent, opaque, shadow, that kind of thing. So scrolling is what I typically use for these things. That way you can have a longer list. You can lock the text so nobody can edit it. You can make it so it doesn't wrap, because normally if you had a single line that was longer than the width of the control, it would wrap around the text. Auto select makes it indicate what line you've got selected. You can select multiple lines. And this is weird. Multiple lines, you would think I can pick the first line and the fifth line, and you could hold control down or something and be able to pick. It doesn't work that way. It's just contiguous sections, so it's not quite as useful as you might think. Wide margins just sets up wide margins for the thing. Fixed line height. This is set mostly because I was trying to use a method to do this multi-column control from a book, and it's described in this one. It's the Tricks of the Hypertext Masters. It's a pretty good book, but it's for an earlier version of HyperCard, so you have to be careful with some of the programs in it. They're a little hard to do. It's not too bad to translate, but it can be tricky. And I tried using it looks like a really nice way to do the control. So you got multiple columns, but the code is just too twisted, and it would be hard to make it a simple control you could just add to a field. So I gave up on that, and I went back to another book. I don't have it. Danny Goodman wrote a couple of books about HyperCard, and this is the one I like to use all the time. But he has another one about HyperCard programming that's not available as a PDF, and I need to find a copy of it to buy it. And in there he says, well, you can tie scrolling of one field to another field and set the scroll position of the other field. But he cautions against using it for fields that are editable. And then there's a lot of reasons why it's slow. You can visibly see it doing its work and stuff, but it's very simple. It's like one line of code to do it. Anyway, so there's also an auto tab and a do not search, so that if you're searching text in HyperCard, it will ignore that field. And then you've got scripting in it. So it's kind of a versatile control, but with limitations. And one of the things I want to do is have you pick things from one side of the list, and then you can enter the quantity in the other side of the list. And there is no multi-column control. And there's nothing where you can, like edit one part of the list and not another. And I thought, well, I could do a pop-up or something so that it could ask for a quantity, but then I'd have to put the quantity into the list, which would change what's in the list. It gets kind of complicated to do. So I thought maybe I could do this multi-select list, but find a simpler way to do it, our multi-column list. So I'm going to switch over to the text tools here, and I'm going to pull this apart. So you'll see there's actually two lists here. The way the book does it is that you use two lists and you overlay buttons on top of the normal control, and you write a lot of code for an up button and a down button in the middle area for moving a page at a time, things like that. And all that code has to calculate the image height of the text. So you're doing pixels to do the scrolling. It's really annoying logic and just kind of convoluted, and I didn't really like it. So what I came up with is this. This is your right hand control with lock text, so you can't edit what's in the list. And this is your left hand control. I could leave it so that it's not locked, but then I would run into problems like there's only, say there's only 15 things in the list. Well, it wouldn't be lined up with this list. you could end up putting 20 things in this one if you could just edit the field control. And I thought about, maybe I could add logic that would say you can't put a 15th item in if there's only 14 in the list, and you can't put a blank extra spaces in it. You have to have it just, after I started thinking about how many kind of scenarios I'd have to deal with, in coding we call them border conditions. What if somebody does this? What if someone deletes something? How do you capture that? And this started to look like it was going to be a mess to do. So this is the solution I came up with. Both of these are locked. And again, this isn't perfect, but the way it works, I'll show you how it works first, and then we can go over. The idea here in Adventure is that you could have all of these objects that are defined that can go into a location in your game. And you would want to be able to put gold or gems or a weapon, or, there could be just stuff lying around that you find and pick up. So you go into a cave, and in the cave is a lamp. Pick the lamp up, you turn the lamp on, you can go search the cave, right? That's the classic. Well, what if you wanted to have gold, and you didn't want to have a single gold piece that was found in a location? You'd want maybe a pile of gold or a chest full of gold or something. So what you need is multiple pieces of gold instead of just one. And I designed the game very simply to start with, where you just pick one item and say it's in that location. Then I ran into the problem of money. I didn't want them having to pick up rupees or whatever in 100 locations to get 100 rupees. So I need a way to say something is in a location and how many of them there are. Okay, so the way this works, if you click on something that's not selected, it selects it, throws one in there, because that's a good default for a quantity, and then asks you how many of that item you want. I made a simple list with fruit. And then when I was doing it, I put beets in there. They're not fruit, obviously, they're vegetables. And then I remembered the Bears, Beets, Battlestar, Galactica thing. That's where the screenshot came from. So anyway, it asks you for one. If I put in garbage, it says, the quantity must be a numeric value. So, and it leaves it alone. If I select it again, it unselects the apple and it clears the quantity. If I click on either of these, it adds it back on. But if I click on the word, it'll ask me how many I want. So I want 20 oranges. Hey, the guy found 20 oranges in this location. Or he could collect all the oranges. You can have one peach. There are no bears, beets, or Battlestar Galactica there. So, unfortunately. You can have a melon. Let's say he has 4 of them. So you get the idea. And if I click on the 4, I want to edit the quantity. I want to make it 5. If I click on melon, I'm unselecting it. So the pop-up box is a little annoying. I thought about doing something like you select something, and instead of a pop-up box, it would make a text box appear overlaid in the position that it needs to be here. And then I started looking at what the code would be like, trying to figure out how to position something so that it would show up in that spot and look like you're editing that field. Not worth the trouble. So this is version 1 of it. It's good enough. It's not great, but it works, and it's not terrible to edit. You can still scroll, and it synchronizes the 2 fields. I can't click and scroll beyond the end, so I can't add extras. I can only add how many I've got here. So it'll work. And yeah, it's not great from a user interface standpoint, but it's good enough. Alright. So, hey Retro Techie. And Mr. Fahrenheit has joined us. And Gut Bomb. Awesome. So anyway, here's the result of it. And now for the technical part of the presentation, let's look at the code. So we're going to look at the card info first. Now, this was something that I was doing actually, let's not look at the script of the card first. Let's look at the field code. Okay. So when if you have a locked field control, it'll respond to mouse up events. If you have an unlocked control and you click on it, there is no event that's fired because it starts putting text. It allows you to edit the control. There is a few things that fire, but they're not as useful as you might think they are. It would be great that if scrolling the field generated an event in HyperCard, it doesn't. It just generates Apple events, and I haven't gotten into trying to capture those events or do anything. So again, keeping the code simple. So with a locked one, you get the mouse up, and what it does is it looks at the selected line of me. Me is the control, and we're talking about the right text field. So it gets the selected line of me, gets the second word of that selected line and puts it in the line number. Now, the reason for this is the selected line is actually called a, what do you call it? I forget the phrase. Anyway, it's a string that represents what is selected. So it'll say line 2 of field whatever, card field right. Well, you want the second thing that's in it. The second word is the actual row number in the field that you've got, or the line number. So, and that's just the way HyperCard is. They didn't have something for the numeric value only. So I get that and put it in a variable called the line number to make it simple. I check to see if the line number of this control is not empty. Because if it's empty, and again we're talking about the right hand side of the list, then it shouldn't be, but I'm going to ignore it. So maybe you've got a list and it's got nothing there in one of the rows. It's just a little bit of code to make sure things work the way I expect them to. Okay, probably could do without it. So then I check to see if the text style of that line is bold. You can, in a text field, have lines or words or things have different styles. So the way I show selection is by making the line bold or making it plain. Plain means it's not selected, bold means it is. It gives me a lot more control over how I use the control. Remember the thing I said about selecting multiple lines in there? It only allows you to select continuous regions. Well, I want to be able to select the 5th and the 6th item, So that's why I did it that way. All right. And then it puts empty into the line number of card field left if it's plain. So if you're picking something that's bold, it makes it plain and then it clears the value. And that's what it was doing when I was picking something that was already selected and clearing it. The next thing it does, it says if it isn't bold, it must be plain. Then it sets the text style of that line to bold because it's a toggle. You turn it on and off. It puts 1 into the line of the left card field. That's your default quantity. That's that 1 we see when you pick something that doesn't have anything. Puts a 1 in there. Then the next thing it does is it does ask, which is the pop-up, the dialog box, and it says how many of whatever that line name is do you want? and it drops the current quantity in there, because if you hit cancel, it doesn't change it. If the result is not cancel, so if you hit the cancel button, that goes into a variable called the result. It's a key word inside HyperCard, and you can check it to see if they hit cancel or OK. So if they didn't hit cancel, it is another keyword that is where results of things end up being put. So it refers to what the text was that the user entered. I check to see if it's a number. So that's something in here. It's really simple. If how many is a number, then that's great. I can use it. I put it into the left-hand column. Else, I pop up a box and say the quantity must be a numeric value. And that's what you saw earlier when I edit Beets and I say blah, and it says must be a numeric value. Okay. Then it drops down here. Now, if I've got the multi-line property turned off, I want you only to select one thing and only one. So it's like you can select the second line. If you click on the fifth, you unselect the second, you click the fifth. So I've got code in there to actually clear out whatever the current selection is, and to reset the quantity to blank. I don't want to do that because I want users to be able to pick things, but that was code I added so that I could use the control in a different way. So I'm leveraging this multiple line property to change the behavior of my code. Think of it as like object oriented. I'm extending what you do with that property, so it means something more. Okay, so anyway, that's the simple code for clicking over here and picking something and unselecting something. Now there's code over here. If I pick something over here, it does the same thing. It sticks a quantity in there. It doesn't ask you for a quantity. It just says, oh, you must want to do that. I could change it to ask you for a quantity, but for some reason I didn't. I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll change the code for that. And let's get to the code for this one. So again, this one's lock text, do not wrap so that the numbers don't run onto multiple lines. A fixed line height because it helps line things up. And that's it for that. Go to the script. And this one looks almost as complicated. I haven't simplified this code yet. There's ways that I could make it more generic. And there's a really neat control that I can show you when we're done, where Apple created a control you could drag and drop onto your form, and then it would set itself up for you and write the code for it, and it's kind of neat. I might do the same thing here. So this one, these are those other events I was telling you about. There's open field, but let's first look at mouse up. It is locked, and you can't edit the text in there. I was trying to do it so if you clicked on it, it would unlock it and set the cursor there so you could edit that number. But then I figured out it would be too hard to keep you locked into that single row of that number and not go all over the place and do the other things. So this code hasn't been updated yet. So it's always going to do this mouse up click. I don't want it to unlock the text, so I commented that out. What it does do is it gets that second word of, and this time it's using the click line, because that's another way that you can get the selected line. Getting it into the line number. If the text style of the right one is plain, then I know that you were selecting it for the first time. It throws 1 in there. And this is where I could do some differences with the code. Well, I'm not going to change it right now. So if it isn't plain and it's bold, it'll pop up and ask you how much you want in there. So it's the same code to figure out, ask you how many. And then it's done with the mouse up event. If I had done the code where it would have removed the text lock on it, what you do is then re-click the mouse button at the same location that you clicked again so that you can fire off another click event. But now that it's not locked, it executes the open field message. And there I could do stuff based on open field. Well, I'm not really using open field because I'm not unlocking it. So this was old code that I attempted to do. Haven't removed it yet. All right. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, the idle event. So let's go look at, there's this interesting concept in HyperCard for idle events. And what it is every tick, which is about a 60th of a second, it will execute the idle event or send that message. And you can catch that event and use it on your card to do things. That's how I did the animation for the cat, things like that. So look at the stack. I already got that stack. Oh, I wanted the code for the card. Sorry. Card info script. All right. So on the card script, on idle, it's looking at whether there's a thing where, since it's executing this every single 60 times a second, it runs over and over again. And there's a problem with, if you're doing something in the idle event that messes around with your card, someone trying to type text into a field will constantly get the focus taken off. So what you do is you check to see whether or not somebody is messing around with the field, and don't actually execute your code for the idle. You suspend doing it, and it's just a kind of a clever way of turning it off. And then you exit the routine. But let's say we're not trying to kill the process. We want to say if the scroll of card field left is not the same as the scroll, which is how far it scrolled, of card field right, then we want to make them the same. And since you can only control it on the right hand control, it takes the scroll, it sets the scroll of card field left to the scroll of card field right. And that's how, when you drag the right one, it drags the left one at the same time. So if we go back to the stack script, which is available to everything, here I was trying to capture someone's opening a field, and that suspends doing the idle process, because if they're trying to type into a field, you don't want it to interrupt them. And on the close field, it says it also will put faults into the that global variable for checking, suspending the idle process, because we don't want it to suspend it if they've left the field, and that's the event where you've left a field. And exiting a field also leaves a field. There's two events for getting out of a field. So this helps keep the idle process from messing with you if you're editing a field. Didn't end up using edit on a field in this, but if I drop this control on another card that's got edit fields on it, I want to make sure they're not being messed with. So that's it. It's actually a lot less code than the solution that was in this book. They had to add, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons with code for each button. And then the two fields had code for each field, and then there was code to set it all up when you entered the card, and it drew the thing so that it could line everything up. And it was just, I could not get it to work properly. And it's way too much code. And if you've got to put more than one of these controls on a screen, you got to duplicate that code for each one. It was just not worth the effort. So So this is my simple solution for multiple scroll fields. Could easily extend it so that you could have multiple columns going across, and you could do something like a spreadsheet, and keep them in sync. Oh, get back to the finger control. And it's not a lot of code. You can see that it's jumping around a bit. You know, it scrolls this one, then it scrolls this one, but it's close enough to the same speed that I don't care. It would be slower on a slower Mac, like a Classic or something like that. Probably be a little bit too annoying to use, but this game is not going to execute on a 4 meg plus. I can tell you that right now. It won't work. It uses 3 megabytes of RAM now, as it is, just to run. So, unfortunately, it's not going to work on the other machines. It's going to have to be on a PowerPC platform for the game to work. Okay, so that was a very long explanation of how I created this thing. Would set lock screen to true, and then do the scroll, and then set it defaults, reduce that. Yeah, well, actually, yes, it would. You'd still have a delay because of the time it takes to lock the screen and then open it up. You could try it on a slower Mac. It would be jerky on the scrolling, but that might be better than having it scroll one and then the other one catch up. So, yes, that would be one way of doing it. And the code that is in this book uses that technique to try to work it. But way too much code. And if I had 2 of these controls on the card, and I'll show you the editor here in a minute, I've got multiple instances where I might need to use this quantity thing. The code is already bad enough on here. I don't need to add to it. So let's go look at Adventure. And you can see a bit of the Adventure game. Let's close this stuff up. So I'm going to quit HyperCard just to kind of clear out the RAM here. And we will look at Adventure. And first we'll look at the editor, because that's where these controls are being used. So here's the editor. Still working on it. It has some basic file information that you can put in about the file. The whole idea behind the adventure game is that you can, kind of like the Zork editors, you could build your own adventure. You could edit the current adventure, or you could create a totally new one. But the idea with the editor is that you want to open, and it's a text file that's pipe delimited. Each record is a single line, and the file is too big to open with teach text. It's getting pretty heavy. I don't know when I'm going to run into the actual limit on it, but anyway, it's getting kind of heavy. So here's one of my configuration files. I open it. I don't know if you guys can read this very well, but basically I've got just where the file is. Well, there is a limit. It's the memory. And if you're going to load a file into a control, like a text field, like contents of the file into a text field, you do run into the 30,000 character limit. I'm not doing that. You can put it in. I'm using global variables to store the stuff. So, but you do run into kind of flaky memory situations. And right now, I've got the adventure game set at 3 meg for the suggested memory for the application, because it was starting to flake out a little bit at the default. So anyway, so I got a simple about where you can put in what the about your game is, and there is player information where you can say what your name is or the player's name is. I might add this just to the adventure game itself as a simple configuration thing, so you could edit the player name without having to use the game editor to do it. But there's basic health, strength, stamina, and magic for your character. And then you can edit this. It's already in edit mode. You can add something. Their skills are legendary. And then hit save. All you're doing is saving to a global variable at this point. I did this two-step save, and I'm not sure I'm going to keep it because I was running into so many problems with stuff. I didn't want to corrupt the game file. You have to actually go up to File Save to save the game after you edit. I did add code so that it would say, oh, you haven't saved it if you try to leave, that kind of a thing. So it's still a two-step save. I might go to the trouble of adding code so that if you leave the form, it saves it to the global variable. If you're on a multiple record thing, like players is a single record, but locations is multiple records, where as you navigate, it'll save an auto-save for you. But with this version, I'm just trying to keep it simple and not to get too crazy with the code. Okay, so here's the location editor, and it happens to be on the first location I created in the game, which is the forest glade, which is literally where you start the game. There is a attribute called home location where you set, that is the home location for the game. It turns off home location on any of the other records when you save this if you turn it on here. So it keeps you from having multiple home locations. What else? There is no directions, or are just 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. It's not based on a hexagonal map or anything like that. It's just a simple grid. And you have objects that can be at a location. This is the current control I'm using for selecting it. So in the forest glade, you have a lamp, a sword, a grenade. It's the Holy Grenade of Antioch. And then there's lambus, so you can, some food. There is a flower. There is a flask. And there's a hidden little thing, if you happen to know the Homestar Runner thing about flasks. That's a little fun Easter egg for people if they know it. And gold. And this is where I ran into, I want people to buy stuff. But if I can only pick up gold, I have to make the value of it pretty high, or you can't buy anything. How are you going to collect enough gold? That's why I need to do the quantity editor. And it would be nice to be able to put multiple of anything in there. Maybe I could do extra flowers or something. NPCs, same problem. You can only have one of each type of NPC in a location. Well, why can't I have 2 guards? I could create a red guard NPC and a green guard NPC to change the description of them, because that's what's used as the key value for the record, is the name instead of a number. So instead of NPC 1, it's NPC guard. Okay. Same with the objects. The name of the object is the key value for the database. The name of the location is the key value for the location. So there can't be 2 forest glades, that kind of thing. But with objects on a location, I want to have multiple of them. So that's why I ran into, how am I going to edit this and create this? I'm trying to make a control that works more like you would expect with a modern kind of a thing. So anyway, you can edit multiple locations. There is a drop-down list, so you can navigate with the drop-down, and then it brings up that record, but you can also type in this. And this is 2 separate controls pushed together with code so that you have both a navigation aid and an edit field. But you can also use the classic first record, last record, previous, next navigation if you really want to too. There's 21 locations. Okay, so let's go to I was on locations. Let's go to NPCs. So here's the guard NPC. You have a description for him. There's dialogue, so the guard can talk. You can indicate whether the dialogue should be random, so it'll randomly select a phrase that a guard says, or you could have it'll walk through the dialogue one line at a time. There isn't conversations yet. That's going to be vNext for that. Where I want to have things like the NPC asks you a question and you have responses you can pick from, or something. There's also one-shot dialogue, which is the adventure or the NPC will only say that phrase once. Once they do, they don't say it again. And then there's a description of what they're like when they're dead. Because if you kill them and then you look at them, that description should be different. There's a disposition, and they can be an enemy, a rival, an acquaintance, a friend, or an ally. And how you do the trading system and fighting depends on their disposition. I don't want to go into too many details because I don't want to give away the secret sauce for the game. And they have health, strength, stamina, and magic, as you would expect. And they can have an inventory. So the guard has a sword. He has lambus and armor and gold. So if you kill the guard, you can loot him for his inventory. You can also try to trade with a guard. So you could say in the text adventure, you do the command trade with guard, and the guard would respond because he's a rival and say, I'm not going to trade with you, or whatever. There'll be some kind of response where he says, prepare to die, and he'll fight you instead. If he's not a rival and he's an acquaintance, it might be a merchant or something, they'll trade with you. If it's a friend, they will trade anything of any value for something you have. An acquaintance, you have to give them something of equal or greater value. If it's an ally, they just give it to you and won't take anything from you at all in trade. They just give it to you. Okay, so, and objects. So objects, you need those to be able to trade things. This is the strength potion. So it's got a description. If you look at it, it'll say the label reads Dr. Strangelove's strength potion, or something like that. And this is something that's a little different. If you put a less than symbol source and a greater than symbol, whoever is using it is the source, and the target is who they're using it on. So if it were a weapon and you were using a knife on an opponent, the dialogue will say, the guard stabs you with the knife, and you would be stabbed Cersei, or whoever the player's name is. Another thing that's in here that's different, this square bracket thing is my way of adding sound effects. So if you drink the strength potion, you use it, it does a bottle uncork and guzzle sounds. And as long as you have AIFF files for sounds, you can embed them inside your game. Let's see what else there is. This potion is a food. It could be a weapon, a tool, or other. Other is just for things. Whether it's consumable, so if it's in your inventory and you drink it, you've used it up. And if it were a sword, it's not consumable. Using it to fight doesn't destroy it. The grenade is consumable, because if you use the grenade, you can't use it again. What else? Health, strength, stamina, and magic. If you use something, it's going to either add or deplete those characteristics. If you use something like a strength potion, it gives you 4 more strength to your strength score. There's nothing for the NPC, and if you make a strength potion, there's a way of making things. It uses up 1 magic in there. It has a value of 2 for trading. And what you need to make a strength potion is the rubber duck, the wand, and nothing else. So if you have a rubber duck and a wand, you can make a strength potion. Let's see. What else? There's a whole bunch of objects in here. There's a note that is used for help. So you find the note. Actually, if you type help as a command, the note appears for you and you can read it. A lamp, because you have to have a lamp, right? A sword, the rubber duck. I'm not going to describe what the rubber duck is for. You do know that you should never pick up a rubber duck in a dungeon, right? You have wands, and there's a grue that can eat you, and the flask I mentioned before, and there's some other things in here. I don't want to go through them all because I don't want to give them away. And that's it. So I changed the player's information, which is still there, and I saved it into the global variable. And if I say File, Save, it's going to ask me where I want to save this. So I'll go ahead and save it in the one I'm working on. I want to replace it. There. Now it's saved. It takes those global variables and writes them to a text file, and I can show you what the text file looks like. So, no, I can't. I don't have BB edit on here, so I can't open the file. It's too big. Hey, Dave. So, what else? So, if we go to the game, it remembers where you last were because there's a save file for the game. I'm going to reload. I'm going to open the game. It tells me I'm going to lose my stuff. It reloads it. And I don't know if you can hear that. That's background music for the first location. So the forest glade has some birds. If you don't want to hear that, you can. I was trying to add music and there were some issues with it, so it's not there. You can turn off sound effects, or you can adjust the volume for them so that they're softer. You can also adjust the system volume. This is one place where I'm using a external command or external function that someone wrote. Where are the credits for that? So here's some credits that I put in there. Yeah, I guess that doesn't show the... Yep. I can't interrupt the scrolling. I have to figure that one out. There's a license. It's going to be the MIT license, so you're free to do whatever you want with it. I've got some help stuff on how to play it. Explain how the editor works. And then I was going to have background music that would play in the game. I ran into too many problems with the way the background music works, so I decided just to leave it out of this version. I was trying to be fancy and rotate through or randomly select different music to have it play, and it just bombed. It would run into memory errors, or it just wouldn't play, or it acted weird. I think I was bumping into the memory limit with it, so just disabled it for now so you can't do it. But if you change the sound effects volume, it resets the volume. It's proportional to whatever the system volume is. So if your system volume is at 50% and you make this your sound effects 100%, you're really at 50%. Okay. So back to the game. There's a command line where you type in your command. Type in look, and you look at what's going on. The NPCs that are there will automatically talk to you. You don't have to engage and talk to them. They'll just start talking. But you can say talk to old wizard, and he'll respond. So another kind of cool thing I did here that you wouldn't get in a lot of adventure games, all of the commands that are appropriate for the location and the condition that you're in right now are listed here. So you can look at a lamp, look at the Lambus, you can look at me, so you look at yourself, look at the old wizard. So it's taking the context of the location and the game that you're in and giving you commands that you can pick from so that you don't have to type them in if you don't want to. And there's an exit command that gets you out of the game. What else? Talked about the editor. Directional compass, so if I want to go north, I can click on it, I'll go north, so it's a little bit easier. There's a merchant, so I can say talk to merchant. I'm going to come up with aliases so that you can type in, instead of having to say old wizard, you could say talk to wizard, or whiz, or something like that, and it would figure out, oh, you mean this guy, this NPC, so you don't have to type it all in. So the merchant says, yes, I haven't got all day. And what might you need, So some of this I pulled from games, like I play a lot of, or have played a lot of Skyrim, so you have sweet rolls, and somebody can steal your sweet roll. Let's see. And if you hit enter, it just brings up the last command. Hit it again. Got some rare things on sale, stranger. Looking to protect yourself or deal some damage. You might recognize that from Skyrim. Yes, I haven't got all day. There, Masterworks all. You can't go wrong. Another reference to something. So you could just keep talking to him, but you could say trade with merchant, and he'll say, oh, hello friend, I have many items for trade. I have, and then it lists all the things in his inventory because he can trade you, he'll trade you with them. And then you can look at your inventory. Gee, I didn't pick up anything. Go back. No, let's not go back. Go south. Take all is a shortcut. I took all of the objects that are in the location. So I have gold, flask, flower, lambus, grenade, sword, lamp. Go north again. Merchant's still there. I can trade with merchant. And he says, here's all the stuff you can trade with. So I can say trade lambus, with merchant for, let's try to get a grenade. And he's going to go, who is merchant for, what? Who is merchant for, oh, I don't remember the command correctly. So let's look at it again. Trade lambus for grenade with merchant. Oops. I keep forgetting you can't use arrow keys. Trade lambus for grenade with merchant. So I got to work on the text. It should be able to be more flexible than that, but this is the way it works right now. And it says, this is what I can offer you. Oh, wait a minute. It says, that's fine, looking lambus. I'm sorry, I can't trade you grenade for it. It doesn't say the grenade or a grenade, or, so it's a little bit crude on the English. This is what I can offer you in trade, though. So then he says, here's all the stuff I have that's of lesser value, and you can trade for those, or equal. So that's the trading system for it. If it's an ally, you could just try to take. So you could say take spoon from merchant, and he's gonna like, I don't know what spoon is. Take spoon from merchant. Get spoon from merchant. I don't know what spoon is. Oh, it doesn't work. Go south. Take sword from old wizard. Okay. He says, hey, I have a sword to give to you, because I know he has a sword. You would try to trade with him, and he'd say, well, here, please, take this sword. This is what I have available. So still have to work on the trading system a bit, but the basics are there. So now if I look at my inventory, it says I'm carrying a gold, a flask, a flower, a lambus, a grenade, 2 sword, and a lamp. And if I say use lamp, it describes how you toss the lamp out there and it floats above you, and now the location descriptions are different based on whether you have a lamp or not. So I kind of hard-coded that in. So if I look, it doesn't make any difference here because it's out in the sun and everything, but it actually changed the description now to say the lamp isn't really needed here, and that you see an old wizard. Anyway, I'm not going to get any farther into it right now, but that's the basics of the game. On a Power PC, it runs great. I haven't tried a recent version in some of the lesser processor environments yet. I did try about 2 months ago. I tried it on a what did I try it on? I think it was an SE, and it crawled. You could play it. It would actually play, but it was really slow. So anyway, so who do we have? We still have Adam and Mr. Fahrenheit. We've got Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Hey, Dave. And Retro Techie and Gut Bomb and everybody else that was here before. So and Adam says, I just set up my med schedule on my phone. This stuff is complicated. Yeah, it sounds like it. So that's really the game so far. Got sound effects. There's more to come. I keep thinking of things to add to the game, but I know I'm eventually going to run into some kind of a limit, and I don't want to corrupt my files, so I back up everything to my NAS every single day I work on this thing, because you never know when it's going to corrupt and fail. So, what machine are you developing this on? This is on a G3. No, sorry. Yeah, it is a G3. This is on my Power Macintosh G3. Let's see. I just recently acquired this. No, don't want the About Adventure. Let's close Adventure. Let's close HyperCard. Quit. So this is I've got 384 megabytes of RAM in this thing, so it's got plenty of RAM. I will try it out, the game out, and probably has some speed comparisons and do a video, because it will run in a slower environment, but not great, not anywhere you'd want to use it. I also want to try it in Mini VMac. It'll work on a Mac SE, and you will get frustrated with how slow it is to respond. It's doing a lot of code. So I'm doing a G3. I have worked on this G3 too. Sorry, let me grab the machine. Of course, I've got stuff hooked up on it. So this is also a G3. This is a G3 laptop that Garth sent me. It's a nice machine. I forget how much RAM it's got, but it's, it runs HyperCard. This is running 8.6. So is this G3. You can run HyperCard all the way up to 9.2.2. You can run HyperCard on the carbonized X version, which is what, Tiger. I can't remember. Like the first version of X. Yeah, you're basically running it on OS 9 under X. But that's it. You're done there unless you use emulation. So use HyperCard at work daily on a G3 with OS X 10.4.6. Oh, cool. Oh, a G5. Sorry, I can't see through the stupid heart thing and icon. Well, that's cool. So, I am resorting to using some external commands. I try not to with HyperCard, mostly because I'm trying to just do what I can in HyperCard. Oh, you run OS 9 in Sheepshaver? Yep, you could do that. Sheepshaver, I've just started using. I have used Basilisk 2. If you run HyperCard in Basilisk 2 because of the kind of inefficient way they do graphics, it'll run really slowly for doing animation. The built-in animation in HyperCard, like dissolving between cards, that kind of thing takes forever in Basilisk 2. Works fine in Mini VMac. Yeah, the XCMDs, external commands and external functions make it a lot better. I have started to use them. I did look for a multi-column scrollable field and didn't really find anything. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, but the solution I came up with, I think, is going to work well enough. So that's good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I did pick up some stuff today. So I went to Goodwill and found this keyboard. It's a Bluetooth keyboard, and it's got, of course, corroded batteries in it. Adam's going to try HyperCard and Sheepshaver. Yeah, I just set it up and started trying it. I have a one of those HP Mini 110 netbooks, and thought I'd try to set it up so it boots right into HyperCard. And the only thing I could get to work correctly on it with Windows XP, which is what's installed on that thing, was Sheepshaver. So I got that. And then they also had, now I'm in the Star Trek, so hopefully you can see these. They had these Hallmark ornaments. So that's a Romulan bird of prey from Next Generation, and here is the Klingon, it's probably a D9. I don't know, I'll have to look. Anyway, they had these and they were for like $11 each, so I bought those. So that was my, vintage, find today. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for putting up with the nerdy description of how I did the HyperCard code for that. I'm really looking forward to releasing the adventure game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's still more work to do in it. Version 2 is going to be a rewrite because the code is all over the place in this thing because I figured out how I was going to build it, and I need to clean it up. So V2 or VNext was going to be a major rewrite, so it'll probably take another year to do it. Who knows? Yeah, do they celebrate Christmas in the 24th century? I bet they do. I know they probably celebrate the holidays. What holidays they celebrate, I'm not sure. And let's see, what else? Oh, I intend to create a box set for it because I want one, and I'll be offering them for sale for the box art and that kind of stuff. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. It's all going to be handmade. I'm not going to go out and drop $10,000 for a game. I don't want to do a Kickstarter. I just want to make enough so that if my friends want to have a box set of the game, they can. And my eldest daughter, who was going to be a graphic designer and still does some of that kind of stuff for fun, she wants to create a manual for the box set that's in the classic style of games that were back then. So you would have things like a grid in the back of the manual where you could chart out the game locations and stuff to keep track of where you're at, things like that. So really looking forward to doing that, but it might be a while. I'll release it and make it available as soon as it's down to a releasable version, and make it available for everybody. I'm not going to wait until the box stuff is done. So maybe V2 will be in a box. I don't know. We'll see. Yep, that's it. Thanks for everybody for showing up. And there's no new news on the HyperCard user group. So this, still working on it. The group that handles Apple recognizing user groups is kind of down right now, and they don't anticipate being able to handle any applications until the first of the year. So that's kind of holding things up with that. Doesn't mean that we still can't do collaborative streams and stuff. And I'm thinking about VCF Midwest this coming year, doing some kind of development party, like the soldering thing they did, or having a table set up with multiple machines so that people can play around with HyperCard, maybe play the games I've got, stuff like that. But I want to do that on a table so that people can sit there and just mess around with the stuff. So anyway, all right. Well, thanks a lot again. See y'all next time. And now I got to figure out where the outro stuff is. I'm transition back over to here. So thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. And there will be more. I'm getting back into it now that I've moved. So, and where is the outro? I set all these things up so I can do this really quick and easily, and then I can't find them. There it is. All right. Bye.